As a Scrum Master, how can you help a Scrum team become performance? And this question can also be asked that what are some of the things you can do to help your team do better? Hello, welcome to the Scrum Chat Room with Dr. Francis Mbunya. And if you're new here, remember to hit the subscribe button because we bring into you Agile and Scrum in a very simple and straightforward way that is going to help you understand not just what to do to get that first job, but also what to do when you are on the job. And if you're looking for really the real coaching, not a place where you can do question and answer, where you can really have deep evaluation on what might be going on, why you're not getting those feedback, why you're not crossing to a certain level. Reach out to me, send a text message, say, oh, Francis, I want to join your coaching circle. We run like a very tailored, organized 90 days coaching session that help anyone with no background to be able to understand how a Scrum team works, not just in theory, but in practical, and to understand how to run all the different events. But most importantly, if you already know what to do, you can check the description below. We have over 150 plus questions that give you like a whole cross-functional ideas about what to expect in an interview. You should kind of definitely go through that as well. And if you're looking for resume help, we also have resume template that could help you. And our next SAFe Scrum Master Certification is going to start on the 27th of June. But if you want to go ahead and get registered now, there's a special discount for you. And also those who need coaching, there's also a special discount for the month of June. You can reach out and I'll be able to give you more information about that. All right, let's get into the question of the day. We don't like to beat around the bush so much. And what's the question of the day? What are some of the things you can do to help a Scrum team really get much better? All right, now the first, I'm going to talk about 4 different stuff. But the first thing for you to help a Scrum team get more better is for you to understand what are some of the, what do we mean when we talk about a team is performant? What do we mean when we talk about performance? Team formation, there are 5 different levels in team formation. Now, when you form a team, the first level is that the storming, right? Remember, just kind of imagine that you have about 5 different people from 5 different countries, and they come together and they want to start doing work together, right? Now they have different cultures, so when they're working together, somebody might be doing something which is based on their culture is correct, on the other person is like, oh, this is taboo, right? So there's that kind of, it might not be physical fighting, that mindset differentiation is called storming. So the first stage of team formation is called forming. You form a team, it moves to storming. Storming is when there is kind of fighting. It might be the mind, it might be just people not getting along so well. But when as time go on, people start understanding the value that different people are bringing on board, and start also understanding that, oh, everyone is not meant to be the same, right? Now the forming, storming, and now the team start normalizing, right? You start normalizing. And now just understand normalizing, like you might be someone that you definitely don't like a co-environment. If you're left in that environment, let's say for a very long time, your system normalize. So no matter how a team is kind of fighting, with time they get to already understand this is how this person is, and they get to accept that fact, they normalize. And then when they normalize, they move to the 4th phase, which is performing. So that's one of the reasons why you're going to hear about performing team most of the time. And when they perform, the last phase of a team formation is called adjourning. Just mean if you guys are doing really good, right? What happens if you're doing something, you're really doing good, people start coming to you for advice, right? When a team get to performing phase, the last phase adjourning, they start taking out members from those teams to go help other teams. That's adjourning. Now, but I just wanted to lay that foundation for us to understand when we say what are some of the ways that you can do to help your team do much better or performing. One of the things you want to do is to be able to check the health of your team. When we talk about checking the health of your team in terms of, are you observing conflict, the way people are communicating? Emotional intelligence is one of your biggest strengths as a coach, right? Remember, as a Scrum Master, you're a coach. Why? You're observing and you're trying to look at how you could advise the team. Now, despite the fact that interviews these days are becoming technical and they want you to go tech, you remember that one of the anti-pattern in facilitating as a Scrum Master is that you're focusing on the technical aspect. So let the fact that interviews are getting technical don't make us think Scrum is a technical environment. No. According to the Scrum Guide, according to the Agile principle, a Scrum Master should focus on the emotional intelligence, on coaching and teaching and helping the team do well. Now, when it comes to the technicality, what you need to know as a Scrum Master, you need to understand the business value, you need to understand the business environment, you need to understand some of the basic tools that your team is using. That is good and fair enough. And that's why when you know exactly what you need to do as a Scrum Master and what your role is, when you're in a technical interview, you know exactly what to say, right? For instance, I can get on an interview and someone is asking me, can you go ahead and tell me how to set up a DevOps environment for your team? I'm definitely not a DevOps engineer, so you cannot be asking me about that question, right? But if you're asking me, okay, what are some of the duties that a DevOps engineer can perform, I can tell you, okay, the focus on deployment of software and also checking vulnerability and see how the system is working and also see how automation or deployment can be done. I can give you that, right? I don't need to get into detail to understand. Maybe they're using checkmark, they're using snake, they're using SonarQube, they're using. I kind of just pick out this word because I've been in the environment for long and I've seen them use it over and over again. But you're definitely not required to go into the depth of that. Now, I said the first thing you want to do is the head of your team. You want to check communication is one of the most important. Why? Because if your team is communicating, the next thing is that if they're communicating well, they are not going to have a lot of challenging communicating with each other. Now, when a team is not communicating, you realize that daily stand-up become very long. Why? Because they want to settle all their differences during the daily stand-up. They want to clarify each other during the daily stand-up. You want to see how communication, like, oh, I was working on this and I wanted to read, oh, Peter, can you check this? But if this communication really flow and you realize that someone will come and say, okay, look, yesterday I was going through this challenge, I connected with this person, we figured out this, and you're going to have a very smooth daily stand-up, which is one of an example of performing team. So number one, you check the head of the team. Now, number two, on how you can help your team become really performant is to be able to maximize retrospective. Now, retrospective is not just about what we did well, what we can do better, an action point. Retrospective is a moment to kind of really get more deeper into your team and understand the way they feel, understand what they feel is the challenge, and understand how we can all get better as a team. And one of the ways to do that, which I love that approach a lot, is to kind of just tell the team, we want to show appreciation today, right? Remember, if I'm not grateful on how you're helping me, I won't show appreciation. So if you just throw up team, like, just show our appreciation today for those who have been helping us and other stuff. Now, from the way people communicate, you can be able to understand what is their pain point, right? You can be able to understand what's their pain point. So you can use retrospective as a tool to be able to double check to see, to help your team do much better. One of the things I also do during retrospective is that I use like different approaches in different retrospective. This week I might decide to use the mirror, but people just go in there, chat up stuff. The next week I just like, oh guys, today we're having an open conversation, and I just go round by round. I just want you to tell me what you feel, working here, what you can improve. Another one I'm going to go by, okay, let's do a couple of games and see what we come up with. So maximizing retrospective can be a really great opportunity to help your team really go do much better, increase their performance. All right, another way, which is a third way, is to focus on capacity forecasting. Now, capacity forecasting, what it definitely means is that you're trying to look beyond what the team is doing now to see if they might need some extra help in future. A typical example of capacity forecasting might be that, okay, we are in the first phase of the project and we're already having some challenges in the fact that when we send things to maybe the DevOps team to kind of run some testing for us or to kind of deploy some software for us, for it to come back to us is taking so much time. Now, as a Scrum Master, you need to already start noting that now it's taking us about maybe 24 hours for us to get a response from the DevOps team. So what we can do is that in the future, can we look for a way to have a dedicated DevOps team member in our team? Right, the same thing if you have a centralized testing, how a story moving forward and back the testing. If you have a dedicated tester, that is good. But if you don't have that, you need to start forecasting and see what are the possible things you can do to get those resources into your team. Now, capacity forecasting can also be the fact that maybe you're working with team members where there's a major holiday coming. Now you already understand that this is going to affect your capacity and you can plan effectively. You might be working with a team member, maybe they're pregnant in the next 4 months, they need to take a maternity leave. You need to forecast on how that's going to affect your team, and then that's going to help you prepare way ahead of time, and this can really improve your team performance. Now, the third thing is about setting long-term goals. When we talk about long-term goals, it's about seeing beyond the immediate, right? Now, a typical example of a long-term goal I can give for my team is that we want to be able to move our velocity from maybe fluctuating between 25 and 35 to getting it maybe within the next 5 months in a point where we can get our velocity maybe somewhere about 38 and really constant there. In that case, what can we do to set a long-term goal? We can set a long-term goal to actually start tracking in details what are some of the things that is keeping our velocity down, and start picking out some of the stuff and cleaning the processes that are really slowing us down from hitting the maximum velocity, and the team start focusing on those aspects on that goal, and they're improving bit by bit until we hit that 38 mark of velocity. So that's your setting long-term goal for your team. Now you can also set a long-term goal for your team that, we want to be able to have maybe a dedicated entire team or dedicated UX design. Those are some of the stuff that could help us really do much better. Apart from that, one other stuff that can really help us to be able to increase the performance of our team, which I know this one, many of you already know that, metrics tracking. When we talk about metrics tracking, what exactly do we mean by metrics tracking? Now, the different metrics that can help us to understand if our team is doing well or not. One of the common metrics I would think, which everyone knows, is the bend down, the bend up, the velocity chart. Now, how can the bend down chart help us? The bend down chart help us to understand what has been the fluctuation in terms of variability on the workload that we accept. Let's say if I look at my burn down chart, and it actually showed me that we started the sprint with 38 story point, and then 2 days into the sprint we had 5 story point added, and then 4 days into the sprint we completed maybe 10 story point, and then 6 days into the sprint 5 stories were added. Now you will not have a bend down chart, you will have more like a zigzag chart, and just looking at that can help me to look at my team is not performing well. This is some of the challenges that we're having. How can we do to already avoid that? Now, the bend up chart is just the opposite of the bend down chart, and the bend up chart just help us to show how we are close to hitting our sprint go. And of course, the velocity chart, which is very important. The velocity chart helps us to see two things. Number one, at the beginning of your sprint, or at the beginning of your iteration, your velocity is how much work your team is committing to. At the end of the sprint or iteration, your velocity is how much work they committed to versus how much work they completed. So if you see a velocity, let's say like 14/28, it means that we committed to 14 and we completed 28. Like, this is like way good. Now if you see something like 70/20, it means we committed to 70 and we completed 20. This is really bad. Does it really happen in real life? Yes. Sometimes it might just be issue beyond your control. Sometimes it might just be that we are taking too much without paying attention on what we can take as a team. So looking at all of these different matrices can help us to be able to effectively evaluate how we can improve the health of our team. All right, so those were some of the ways you can help your team do much better. You don't need to know all of them, right? You can just pick one of them and talk about them, and that is definitely good enough. One of the things that are going to help you a lot, kind of crush your interviews, are going to be the fact that you're not getting into the technicality. In my next video, I'm going to talk about how to pass your interview without getting to the technicality. What is the language that you can use that can really help you kind of push through and avoid all of those technical terms. And when you start kind of going through your interviews as if you're having a conversation without no stress, it helps you really do much better. And if you want to get to that phase, you feel free to join our coaching circle. Feel free to get into our accountability circle. What we do, we show you the way, we show you how to roll it, and we make you just build that confidence and roll through the entire process, right? So before you go, don't forget to hit the like button, don't forget to subscribe, and I'm going to see you in the next 2 days for another great video. Have a great week, and make sure you're crushing those interviews.